And let's bring in ABC News papal contributor and professor of law and religion at George Mason University, Helen Alvarez, for more on this. Helen, thanks for being on. You know, the former Pope...
Thank you so much.
Pope Benedict broke years of church tradition by retiring. It was almost unprecedented. So how significant do you think that decision is to his legacy?
Well, first, it emphasizes his whole, what I would call modest career. He didn't want power. He was always seeking the truth as an intellectual theologian, and yet he's asked to be head of doctrine. He's asked to be a cardinal archbishop, and then eventually he's elevated to pope. He always wanted to seek truth instead of power, and when he felt that he could no longer exercise the power given to him, he modestly steps aside. That is a huge precedent for future popes.
Now, the Vatican has very complex and elaborate rituals for what happens after a reigning pope dies, but none that are publicly known for a former pope. So what can we expect this week, and how does a reigning pope partake in the funeral of a retired one?
Yes, I think you'll see that Francis will continue the beautiful, respectful, collaborative relationship that he's had with Benedict. The two have just been so gracious to one another. And I think Francis will show that he wants Benedict to have essentially all the honor and ceremony that one would give a pope, even though there's no conclave in the offing in 2 weeks. I expect it will be every bit as ceremonial and beautiful as the death of a reigning pope.
Now, Benedict faced both praise and criticism for his handling of sexual abuse within the church. What kind of an impact do you think that will have on how he's remembered overall? And overall, how will people view his handling of that issue?
Right. Well, I think, first of all, people need to be familiar with the entire scope of it. There's books, Peter Seewald's biography of him, which cover it over many, many pages. He will be remembered for several things. I think one is when he became head of the doctrine office, one of the things he did was to say the office that was handling abuse in Rome was not doing it stringently enough. He brought it under his purview for purposes of imposing greater discipline, rooting out the truth, and putting more priests out. Laicizing them. I think, though, that he will also be remembered for being a man who was concerned with the overall administration of the church, with writing theology, and sometimes handled things in a manner that people would regard as too slow and not sufficient to the crisis that was happening at the moment, but rather leaving it to others who really didn't operate fast enough.
And so when you look back at his legacy overall, what are some of the key things you think Pope Benedict will be remembered for?
A couple. I think one is going to be that he's one of the last intellectual greats with encyclopedic knowledge of the Western canon who attempted to make the world, really in the last 100 years, and Christ mutually understandable to followers in light of everything from globalization to environmental disaster to poverty to the sexual revolution. He tried to keep the radicality and freshness of the Christian message alive in light of that. I also think, and I say this from personal encounters with him as well, that he will be remembered as someone who kept intellectual greatness and complexity together with personal holiness and kindness. Anyone who ever met him or saw one of his speeches would see how he kept these together.
All right, Helen Alvarez, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.